On November 14, 2017, Joshua Sitzer and Amy Winger finished signing paperwork to officially sell their home in Kansas City. What seemed like a regular real estate transaction could possibly ruin real estate for first-time homebuyers everywhere. The home originally listed for $600,000. After negotiations with the buyer and their agent, the house ended up selling for $590,000, a $10,000 difference between what they were asking for and what they got thanks to the buyer's agent. In the grand scheme of things, this is about 1.7%. Historically, less. We typically see between 2 and 3% from original asking price to final selling price. It's not that big of a chasm. But this is where Joshua and Amy's problems began. After losing what they felt was $10,000 on the sale of their home, they were also required to pay the buyer's agent, the person who negotiated against them. $17,700 after the house was sold went to the buyer's agent. So in their mind, $10,000, $17,000. This buyer's agent cost me $27,000. So they were upset after the sale of their home. Now, why is there even an agent to begin with? Why does the buyer have someone representing them? If you go back in the history of real estate, there wasn't always someone there to represent the buyer. There was a time where you paid a listing agent a commission to sell the home, and that was it. There were no such thing as a buyer's agent. And then somewhere along the way, sometime before the 1990s, we had sub-agency. And all sub-agency meant was that there was someone to show the buyer the property, even though the sub-agency was working for the agent representing the seller. Sub-agency has no fiduciary responsibility whatsoever to the buyer. No one is still representing the buyer back then prior to the 1990s. Somewhere along the way, someone said, hey, somebody needs to represent buyers. Someone needs to protect a buyer when they're buying a home. And the purpose of the buyer's agent is to have someone protect you. Look out for your best interest. Help protect you from things you might not know about. Without the buyer's agent in place, there's no one to represent the buyer. So again, in the history, there was just an agent that was hired to sell a property and they represented the sellers only. Somewhere along the way, they said, hey, let's have another agent show the buyer, but they work for the listing agent and there's still no one protecting the buyer. And then someone said, hey, let's have an agent protect the buyer. At this time, this couple is outraged. They decided to sue the National Association of Realtors and other big brokerages, including RE/MAX, Keller Williams, and Realogy. The lawsuit stated that these companies are implementing and enforcing alleged anti-competitive practice. One of the big rules is the Sherman antitrust rule. And what the anti-Sherman rule says is that we're not allowed to collaborate and discuss what is a reasonable commission. I can't say, here's what the standard commission is, here's what's a reasonable commission. I can't talk to other realtors as to what is a fair commission to pay. Once we're talking about commissions, it's considered colluding, and now we're violating the antitrust laws put in place by our federal government. And with all that being said, there's nothing set in writing that you have to pay a 6% commission. There are flat fee services, and they've been around forever. You can list your house with a realtor for $200 or $300 flat fee. So there's no obligation whatsoever to pay a 6% commission. So what's amusing to me is that they're upset about paying a 6% commission when that was entirely negotiable. It was up to them and the listing agent to negotiate what commission they were willing to pay to that agent to sell the property. Now, this lawsuit and a similar one with Merle have major implications for the future of real estate. With many big brokerages like Anywhere and RE/MAX already settling the lawsuit, buyer agents might become a thing of the past, no longer making a requirement to pay a buyer's agent commission. As a matter of fact, National Association of Realtors this month has decided we're no longer obligated to pay the buyer's agent any commission whatsoever. What does this mean right now for people looking to buy a house? It's nothing earth-shattering today. All that means today is right now, if you're looking to buy a house, you might have some houses that you're interested in that has a 0% co-broke, 0% to the buyer's agent. And here's what's gonna happen to you. If you want to look at a property, when you reach out to your realtor to show you that property, they're probably not going to show you that property. And who would blame them if they're not getting commission to show the house? So your experience in buying a home is going to change. Maybe not too big today, but in the foreseeable future, buying a house will be drastically different. There will be no one to represent buyers in the purchase of their home. There'll be no one there to help them, prevent them from overpaying for a property, running a proper inspection, and all the other things the buyer's agent will do to actually protect the buyer. I'll give you a couple examples here. Have you ever heard of a nightmare scenario where someone bought a home and they regretted the purchase? If there's no buyer agent, no one to look out for you, who's going to tell you about the airport that's really close by, that has airplanes flying over it every day? Who's going to tell you about the train that's right up the street that honks every morning at 5 a.m.? Who's going to tell you that there are soil issues in this particular part of the community, or maybe in the past, there was some pollution from companies nearby poisoning the ground. What does this mean for real estate agents? Well, a lot of the realtors you know right now are going to be out of business. That's just the reality of the scenario here. They're not going to be able to make enough if they're not getting paid commissions to show houses. What do I make of all of this? Well, I think this is a bombshell lawsuit that's led to major implications for the future of real estate. And me personally, where I am most concerned is that the best interest of the buyer. There's no one looking out for the buyer today. Now, for the longest time, I felt like the buyers have had too much protection. They can cancel at any time during escrow, whether it's inspection, financing. It was too buyer friendly and the sellers are getting screwed. Now, there's no one looking out for first-time home buyers. The first-time home buyers are the least able to pay a commission to go look at a house. If they can barely make a down payment and pay for closing costs, how can they possibly pay for representation? And is that what we want as a society? Do we want to have people looking to buy houses, their most valuable investment they'll make in the next decade, maybe for their whole lives, without anybody looking out for their best interests? Maybe that's what we want. That's not what I like to see. Personally, I want people that are buying houses to have an excellent experience. If you look back at my reviews for all these years, I've always had 5-star reviews. I care that they're having an excellent experience. I care that they're well represented. I care that someone's looking out for the best interest. The way things are going right now, those days are over. A normal house contract that seemed harmless in 2017 could change the way we fundamentally do real estate transactions moving forward. What's crazy about this entire situation is that Stitzer and Winger eventually bowed out of the lawsuit. They're not even in the lawsuit anymore. We were just about to hit the publish button on this YouTube video and this verdict just came out. So NAR lost the settlement, $1.8 billion with treble damages, probably over $5 billion. And you know what? This verdict generally makes me sad. I think this is gonna hurt the overall general public. Everybody loses here. I think probably the part that offends me the most is the massive ignorance as far as how commissions work within our industry. I've been a realtor for 15 years and I can tell you almost every homeowner believes our commissions are negotiable. I think this whole entire situation is nonsensical. And the reality is, again, I believe everyone's gonna get hurt. And again, for me, my heart hurts the most really for the underserved, underrepresented buyers. If you have a hard time right now paying the down payment, and on top of that, paying the closing costs, how are you gonna be able to pay a commission for the buyer's agent? And if you can't pay a buyer's agent, that at the end of the day, what that means is no one's going to be representing you. So again, I think everybody loses with this verdict. I think this is an earth-shattering verdict here. This settlement is, again, I believe it's going to hurt everybody. If you think I'm wrong, if you think differently, comment below. Let us know how you feel about this verdict. If you enjoyed what you just watched, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss another video.